Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together. All right, guys, welcome to episode number 60. We're talking about, is this the greatest time to be a fan of sports?
Of sports?
Or just bike racing in general? I'm kind of a huge fan of hockey too, and right now it's kind of like we're getting really close to breaking the record for as goals scored by Ovechkin. Ovechkin's going to break it. Hopefully this season.
We turn into an NHL podcast.
Yeah. So
we got the puck watch. We're going to put a little graphic down here.
Puck watch,
goal watch. Yeah.
So
no, but it is. I mean, there's a lot of really cool things going on. And, you mentioned the hockey. I mean, playoff season's right around the corner. Baseball season kicked off.
Yep.
Everybody thinks about the NFL, like when the NFL season starts, it's like a big party of college football and NFL. And like, I like football, don't get me wrong, but man, spring's the best.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's one of those things too. Like, I think back to like, with the NHL stuff and Ovechkin breaking the record. It's gonna be like when Jordan got that seventh ring or whatever.
Yeah.
And or he came back to basketball from baseball that year. Like
Right.
It's just one of those things that like where you were when that thing happened.
Yeah.
Especially if you're into sports and stuff like that. Like, I remember watching that Bulls game when, in my mom's house when I was like, I don't know, like 15 or something like that when he was coming back. So
it's those things too, like you don't really appreciate it in the moment as much as you probably should.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you mentioned in high school, and I was a huge Bulls fan because that's probably the last time I watched the NBA, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's like it's a great moment, but you have no appreciation for it. And then as you get older and you start seeing all the comparisons and like, is LeBron better than Jordan? The answer is no. So to settle that right now, the answer is no. But you don't really appreciate what was really happening. And I think you got something like the goal record that you think about Gretzky, and like people thought that record was untouchable.
Yeah, they thought it wasn't, and it's not like it's it's almost 900 goals.
Yeah,
and
think about what that takes over a career.
And Ovechkin he's one of the oldest players in the NHL right now. He's like 37, which is unheard of in the NHL. Like, and he's still producing goals.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's one of those things where, with sport, like even if you don't like hockey or you follow hockey or something like that, this is something that we'll probably never see again in our lifetime.
Yeah.
It may be multiple generations from now that, somebody's able to break Ovechkin's record, however long he plays. Maybe he plays for another couple of years and
I was going to say, there's nothing
out.
that says he's going to retire at the end of this year, and you still have the playoffs to consider. So, it's really unheard of. And I think it also kind of goes to the fact that you're going to see players playing deeper into, as they're older. You're going to see, more older players, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I mean, because, health and taking care of your body is something that every star player that lasts in leagues learns at some point they have to take care of their body.
Yep.
And now the younger guys are just doing it from the start.
Yep.
And it's getting to the point where, it's not going to be crazy to see somebody that's 38, 40 years old out either on the ice or on a baseball field. Other than quarterback, because they're so protected, I don't know where on the football field, maybe kicker.
Yeah.
That a 40-year-old would play. You're just going to see more and more of this, of the longevity of careers. And for some of these guys, you may see it get broken again, but I don't know. It's crazy to think 900 plus goals over how many years to make that happen. how consistent you have to be
Yeah.
year after year after year.
Yeah, and it's not like he, joined the NHL and was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take on Gretzky's
Right.
record. It's just like eventually he just kind of found himself in a place where he's like, wow, I guess I'm pretty close now.
Guess it's in sight.
Yeah.
It's a lot like in baseball with the home run record. It's the same type of thing where I don't think anybody starts a career going, oh, I'm going to go break the record. You just can't. You can't. I mean, home runs are so hard to hit. And then next thing you know, you're in the 500 club. You're like, how many players are in the 500? How many people played baseball and are in the 500 club? There's just not that many. And so hockey's a lot the same way. I mean, how many players have 800 goals?
Right. Exactly.
Let alone 900.
Yeah.
So you don't ever start your career thinking that's going to happen. And it's just wild. So, I mean, I can only imagine what's going through his head right now. And like how he's, I bet there's not as much pressure as people might think. Like, you might think, oh, he's probably playing with a lot of pressure to get the record. I don't know. It's like inevitable at this point, isn't it?
Yeah. I think he just goes out and just goes, look, if I keep doing what I'm doing and I stay healthy and don't get injured, it's coming to me.
Yeah.
I think, and and that's the way I would imagine that I would think about it too, is that, as long as I keep doing what I'm doing and I'm staying healthy and I'm producing and maybe maybe I don't get a goal, one night, whatever, it's not the end of the world. It'll come, it'll keep coming. And like, I've been playing the sport for so long, or I've been doing the sport for so long that eventually it's going to come around. Yeah. I'm going to start, pucks are going to get in the net. It's going to start happening. Yeah. So, and I think that translates to, my riding and, and life in general is like, sometimes you fall into a little funk and then, you just be like, hey, nothing's too crazy.
Right.
Like I didn't upend everything just because my FDP was weird.
Right.
Like I just knew that like everything's going to come around. Just some stuff I just have to be patient with.
Exactly.
It. So
yeah. A lot of lessons to take out of it for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you can't just, I think when you see like players, like high, like professional players trying to force things, that's when you see like them make huge mistakes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So a lot of lessons to take out of that. And, it's funny because we start off with NHL news and doing the baseball and all that. And it's like, it does all kind of come back to the same thing. That's the thing I love about sports. And when I used to coach competitive baseball, and I'd always talk to the kids, like, they're young, they don't have any comprehension for it. But as they get older into high school, that's where you really teach that, sports is life. If you play sports, like a good coachable athlete is going to make for an excellent person in professional life, personal life. I mean, because there's so many lessons to be learned from it about, resiliency, the competitive nature and the ability to bounce back, and the hard work, the work ethic. Yeah. And the consistency of what you have to do to sort of hone in your craft. And so I think that's why sports is so important for younger people. And, as you get older, I mean, not everybody becomes a pro. So unfortunately, but,
right. But I also think it's great for everybody too, like to be involved in sports, because it's just one of those things that like you learn so much from it, like just, how to be consistent, all that kind of stuff, how to put in the work, how to dedicate your time, like, how to do stuff that, that you wouldn't do just in a regular setting, like you in your 9-to-5 office job. Your office job doesn't, or your 9-to-5 job doesn't teach you like how to be like competitive, or how to be, work as a team or be a team player or anything like that. They may strive for that in the office, but like you really learn it when you're playing sports.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's just the skills you develop that transfer everywhere. And, like I say, I think that you can always tell the people that have played sports growing up versus the ones that didn't. And again, I know sports isn't for everybody, and not every kid loves to go out and play baseball or football or soccer or any of those things. But that's why I think these types of we talk about endurance sports.
Those are all different too. Like
they are.
You don't have to play a team sport. You could be a single sport person.
And that's why I think we talked with folks around here about getting like youth triathlon started up and things like that, which is just awesome to see, because it doesn't have to be a traditional stick and ball sport. It can be anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that is really important. As you get older, we kind of talked about this too. There's more and more people that maybe they never even played sports, or they did, but it was it was on a very limited basis. But as they get older, they recognize, hey, I've got to exercise, take care of myself, and all this. And now all of a sudden, there's this sort of new obsession, and it gave a new appreciation for why it's so important. And I tell people all the time, in a work environment, work is not hard anymore when you've gone out and done some of the things that we've done. You think about, grinding for 17 hours in the Flint Hills through the mud. It's not really fun in the moment at times, but I mean, afterwards, like, yeah, what's really hard after that?
Yeah.
So they're doing it, do a full Ironman, or hell, even just doing your 5K and just giving it everything you got to cross the line in a personal record. It's like, you learn the discipline and the ability to sort of persevere through that. So,
yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah. Any news? Any news you want to cover? I mean,
as far as news goes, I mean, we're on Big Sugar Watch still. So I know I like to just poke at it. Just poke at it a little bit.
I keep waiting for somebody to tell me, like, why has this not sold out?
Yeah.
I mean, is it because maybe they expanded the field like by double?
That's what I think. Because I was looking at Sea Otter Classic, that still hasn't sold out yet, and that's in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then, so the only ones on Lifetime that are sold out are, of course, Leadville and Unbound, which are like the two marquee events.
Yeah.
So it just could be that, the entry size is a lot bigger, and they're just, just got spots to fill still. So
could also be that it's too expensive and nobody wants to do it for that price, right? Like there's all sorts of reasons. I'm just saying.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. I mean, that could be a thing too, that it's just not. But again, the reason I like to kind of jab it a little bit is because it's one of those things where I've seen it sell out many a times, and I'm worried now that the reason it's not selling out is because, one, I don't know, is gravel dead? Is it dying? Is it are we the only two talking about it? And maybe a handful of other people, everybody who listens, I
don't think that's the
our
case.
10 followers or whatever.
We got more than 10. Come on, give us a little credit.
Our 100 followers, they're the only ones that care about gravel. It's just one of those things where I'm like, what's going on, man? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things too, and it's just me too, just being, because nothing started yet. The season hasn't started yet. We had Mid-South, but it got canceled. So it's just well, how healthy is this? Because it's just kind of this fledgling little sport that you're just trying to well, is it still popular? Is people still doing it, or are they doing something else? What's going on? So,
would the answer change what you're doing?
No,
okay.
I'm going to still do it.
Yeah.
Again, if something happened and they rolled up all the gravel races and said, you know what, we're not putting on any events, it's I'd still go out and
of course
ride them and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't really need the event I just like the event. It's nice to be around people who like what you like. You know?
I worry more. I mean, I know what you're saying, but I worry more for the local events and all of that than I do the bigger events. If Big Sugar doesn't sell out, I don't know what that really means, because does that just mean that Lifetime doesn't make as much money? I mean,
right.
You know what I mean? I don't know what it really means. And this is where we did this it's probably been a couple months now, several episodes ago, where we talked about, it'd be really nice to know, what is, I know Lifetime does a lot for the sport, so I'm not sitting here going to say that they don't, or insinuate that they don't, but it's I don't know the impact. If Big Sugar doesn't sell out, what does that actually mean?
Right.
And does that mean they do half a Big Sugar next year? I don't know.
Right. You don't know if the Lifetime events are a good barometer of the condition of the sport.
Because when I look at the local stuff, and especially with the Dirty Disco earlier in the year, if I use Dirty Disco as the sort of litmus for where's the popularity of the sport, I'd say it's as healthy as it's ever been.
Yeah.
Because there were so many people that showed up in a what was expected to be a very cold day. It turned out to be a very nice day, but March 1st, that's crazy. And I think when you see Mid-South was tough. I should have asked a few folks that were there, what was the how many people were there ready to race it and ready to do it. I bet it was a pretty awesome atmosphere. So I'm guessing it's still very healthy. I think these, lifetime events and all of that are just, I think there's more factors than just it's not sold out because. I think there's multiple becauses. And
Yeah.
so when I look at like the local events, like I think of, we've got a couple of local things. We just did our first episode of the Great Plains Gravel Cup that's, kicking off here in a couple of weeks. And that's going to be a good indicator for the Kansas City area.
And from what I've heard from Bobby, and we'll be talking to Eric, next week or
next couple
weeks, and we'll talk to him about like his numbers. But like I said, they said Open Range had like 500 people already registered for the 200K, which is
awesome,
which is insane.
Yeah,
because the last time we rode it, there was like maybe 100.
Yeah, so I think the health of the sport, especially on a local level, is as good as it's ever been. I don't know what that says necessarily because we'd really like to see it growing. And that's what I'm more worried about. To me, I just worry about like, are the right things happening in the sport for it to grow?
Right.
And is it the right kind of environment for it to grow? And I think on the local level, it's getting much, much better. And things like the Gravel Cup that we keep talking about. I know there's probably a lot of folks who are like, well, I don't really understand it or what it really means to me. And we, again, it's about the fact that it's to promote the consistency of the sport and the fact that if you really want to go out and enjoy these things, you do have to be consistent.
Yeah.
And throw a few prizes in there. It doesn't cost anything extra to go do it. And you know what? Go try an event that you haven't done yet. We're going to try a couple of events we haven't done yet this year. It's going to be a blast. I'm really excited to get to a couple of new courses. So, I think it's going to be really indicative of the health of the sport. And I think the Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska area is, and Arkansas really is, it, like, to me, that's the bellwether for the rest of the country.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty hardcore through, especially Flint Hills is still considered probably the top gravel destination in the United States, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's another contender out there that would try to top that.
Yeah, would try to come close to.
I mean, I know Colorado tries, Steamboat and all of that, but it's like, okay, but you got the mountains. Like, I get it.
We've ridden on we took that detour and we rode on those gravel roads on road bikes, and we're like, this isn't gravel.
Yeah. That's right. That was an adventure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's interesting to see the situation with Big Sugar. I'm thinking maybe we ought to try to reach out to some folks and see if we can get some more intel there, and maybe even see if we can get somebody on the podcast that would maybe help us understand that, the fact that it hasn't sold out, how does that relate to previous years? Is that because, again, did they expand the number of people?
Right.
I mean,
were they selling out at, like, let's say 500 slots, and then they expanded to, they were like, well, let's do 1,000. And then now they're sitting at like 800. So they're like, we're at a good spot. We're kind of at the, what we think we're projected. And then
I go back to what I said a few weeks ago. I mean, nobody watches the live sporting event with a half empty stadium.
Yeah.
So it'd be kind of tough if you go down there and you're expecting it to be this raucous group and it's like 50 of us show up, It's like, all right.
Yeah.
I drove here for that. But anyway, it'll be, I mean, it's a great event. We're definitely not being critical, but it is.
No. Like I said, I just kind of like to jab at it and just because it's the it's the NHL of gravel, right? It's the top tier.
Yeah.
And so you want to see what's going on. Like if you have we'll talk hockey again, but if you have a really healthy AHL, American League Hockey, and the KHL, the Canadian Hockey League, like those healthy hockey leagues, those games are really good.
Yeah.
Like those guys are really good still. And and then you have so if the bottom layer is doing really good and the top layer can only excel and it looks like really good. And so I just, but if the top layer doesn't look good, then you're like, what's going on?
Right.
Then it kind of like filters down. So you kind of, that's like how I look at it. Just kind of worried,
I'm anxious to see how some of the local fall gravel registration numbers are shaking out.
Yeah.
Because, we know Opawapu coming back in the October timeframe, and I've been seeing them put some teasers out there on their Facebook page and Instagram pages about the course and this beautiful picture of a gravel road. And I'm like, I think I remember that road.
Yeah,
I don't know. I suffered so much. I don't know if it was fun or not.
I know. I remember, but it brings back pain. pain.
I think that's a fragment of my soul in that picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see it. That orb that's floating.
I was like, I know where that is.
Yeah, let me go back and collect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that, and obviously we've got Bad Astro, which is a favorite in the fall, and a few others, and obviously the Great Plains Gravel Cup is going to be a ton of fun.
Yep.
Wrapping up that time of year. So yeah, I don't think the health of the sport is anything to be too concerned about until we start to see a decline in the local numbers. But I don't know. Unbound will be a good indicator too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. So are we done talking about hockey, or we want to get on to other things?
No, we're good. No, I talk about hockey all day. Are you kidding me? Who's your? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
right? We're gonna go into our hockey picks right now.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
The Stanley Cup.
The Colorado Avalanche are not doing too great right now. Paper tiger,
right?
So.
No, but I think some other news. You got some blood work done, right?
Oh yeah. So, way to jump into that topic, yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it's news, right? So.
Well, So I signed up for. There's a website, Function Health. And I have a referral code if anybody's interested. I'm happy to post the link as part of this, but I'm not sponsored by it by any means. I got no.
Yep.
They didn't ask me to say anything. This is just me talking because I signed up for it, and
Danny finally took my advice and went and got his blood work
yeah,
done.
Right. Well, so it's interesting because over the last several months, I've had these episodes where, like, for multiple weeks at a time, like my resting heart rate would just kind of dip and then stay super low, and then it would come back up, a few weeks later, and then like, not a big deal, but it would also, like, my blood pressure would drop, like, kind of coincide with that, and I'm like, so I play Dr. Google and try to figure out, and I've got 17 different diseases that I have to co-manage.
Four types of cancer going on.
Yeah, so I mean, don't use Google for your medical advice for sure. But in any case, a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just go to the doctor and see because most doctors don't really understand that, that they treat you, I'm not trying to get into a debate on healthcare, but they treat you as you're another patient in their office. They don't treat you as, oh, you do cycling events that last 12 to 16 years. Oh, you train constantly for this. How many times have we talked to friends who have gone to their doctor for blood work, and even dietitians are like, well, you need to exercise more. I'm like, I already work out 28 hours a week. I've got my exercise logs to prove it. How much more working out would you like me to do?
I'm like, you're going to have to start paying me to work out more. Like,
yeah, because I can't take time away.
I can't take time away from the job.
Yeah. So that's why I don't, and so Function Health, I ran across it a few weeks back and kind of been looking at it off and on, and it's really interesting. So I went and had blood drawn twice this week. So they break it up into two different days because they drew 9 vials of blood each day. Because it's a full 100, like, right, 100 plus biomarkers.
Yeah, it's a full comprehensive
blood
panel.
Yeah,
everything they can test for in your blood, they're going to test for it.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy add-ons, which I'm like, how many more add-ons are there? Because the list seems like it's an endless list of things they're checking on. And 99% of it, unless you have a valid reason to think that you've got a problem, you're probably not going to get that. Like, your doctor isn't going to order that blood check for you because, like, unless you go in there and you have other symptoms or indications that your pancreas isn't working correctly, then you're not going to go get blood samples and blood drawn to test your enzymes or anything like that. So this is a comprehensive test. I fully expected most of it to come back normal, and results are still coming in. I just had the last blood pulled yesterday, but already within a few days, starting to see results pour in, and I gotta say, it's pretty interesting. It really is.
Right, and the thing is like we're getting the start of the season starts in like 2 weeks, and then you're gonna go back in 6 months, which is the end of the season. So then you can compare of like, those two data points. You can be like, okay, so going into the winter, I know, or the off season, I know I need to make sure I keep track of my B12 and all that other stuff. And then when you get through this race season, be like, when I'm full on racing, like, I know I'm going to have to keep track of making sure that I make these my priorities, which is huge. I mean, just knowing that kind of stuff, and, so much more, and we're talking about, these guys spending, multi-decade careers in professional sports or, amateur sport too. Right. Like, we want to be those athletes that are still riding in their 80s.
That's what I put as my goal.
Yeah, there's
they have you fill out a questionnaire, and it's like, what kind of life goals, like what kind of like goals you have for your health. I'm like, I want to be doing these things when I'm in my 80s and 90s.
Yeah, there's this Italian guy that rides interurban, where close to where we are. He's got to be in his 80s or something.
Yeah.
And he's just out there on his trek, and he's out riding, and we see him, and he's
pretty sure his bike is older than I am.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see him out there on it.
He's on an old steel frame.
Yeah.
And it's so that's
Didn't he pass you last week?
Shut up, man.
Still
I was so tired. I had a heat stroke.
How was it drafting behind him?
It was great. Yeah, no. But like that's the thing though. Like we're not pro, but we also want to be in the sport doing active lifestyle for
as long as you can.
Yeah. So I mean that's great.
Well, and I think too, again, not to turn it into a healthcare podcast or anything like that, but I think there's also this notion that people wonder why healthcare is so expensive, and there's a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers to solve it here, but one of the reasons that I think is that people don't necessarily take enough charge of their own healthcare, and they don't have an interest in their healthcare until something's wrong.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, I got to go to the doctor to get better, versus I'm going to do these proactive things to try to keep myself out of going to the doctor's office. Like, I mean, knock on wood, I couldn't tell you the last time I was at a doctor's office for anything other than a standard physical.
Every time I go to the doctor, since my heart rate's so low, you know how it's super low.
That's right.
They freak out.
Sure.
So I have to,
you gotta remind them.
I have to jump up and down and stuff because they think I'm like my heart rate just sitting there is in the 40s.
Yeah,
like just normal.
Yeah, and that's kind of where mine is now too.
And they were so I was at the I went to see the doctor because I'm doing my doctor stuff too. But like here's a little funny story. So I'm at the cardiologist, right? I'm probably the youngest person there at the cardiologist because I have a heart defect that just never healed when I was younger. So they just monitor it. So of course I'm the youngest guy there, and they look at my vitals, and the nurses are starting to freak out in the room because they're like, "Hey, have you gone in?" My nurse comes in and checks on me, and takes my blood pressure and all that stuff, and then she's like, "Yeah, they're all freaking out there, like thinking that you're gonna end up crashing on them because your heart rate's so low." And so then my doctor comes in, and she's great. She knows exactly. She goes to the nurse's station and goes, "Don't worry about him. He runs marathons and does Ironmans and stuff. He's really he's fine. Don't worry about him. He's great." So, but like that's the kind of I want to be healthy for as long as I can be, because it's just one of those things that if that saying of what is a sick person? There's only one thing that a sick person wants, and that's to be healthy. Yeah. It's just I just want to be healthy for as long as I can.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's it'd be nice if more people had that kind of interest in their health. And, obviously the people that are listening to this podcast aren't the ones I'm saying. Most of the folks that do this are already doing something active to manage their health and to be in good shape. And again, I don't sit here and pretend to have all the answers. I promise I don't.
No, there's just so much.
But the thing is the majority of society just doesn't do enough to manage their health. Like I said, until they're actually sick or they actually need something, and then all of a sudden they lean on the healthcare system. And unfortunately, some percentage of those require very expensive treatments. And as I said, you kind of wonder why healthcare is so expensive, and it's because I think people are approaching it from the wrong angle. I think they need to approach it more proactively. Anyway, it's really interesting. I really like the direction that some of these companies are going, because it's empowering people to sort of take control of their healthcare versus, oh, I can only get this done if I go to the doctor. No, if you want to get blood work done, you can go to like a Quest Diagnostics or whatever the local lab is, and you can order your own blood work and get the results. You don't have to have a physician's orders for that. Right. So people just don't think about it.
and again, that's a good thing for you to do, because you have these data points now. Everybody is an individual and responds to different, their diet choices, their supplements that they take, their vitamins, whatever. Right. Those could be having different effects, and so just learning more about what you respond to and what you even with glucose, like I could eat a bowl of oatmeal, you could eat a bowl of oatmeal,
whole different effect.
and we'll have a totally different effect
right.
on our glucose.
How many people I've seen that have used the glucose monitor I'm talking about, and how many people I've seen that say, I've been eating a diet that I've been told is healthy for me, only to find out that I'm just spiking my blood sugar constantly. Like things like oatmeal and, healthy fruits and things like that. And it's like, it affects everybody differently. And the more you can dig into that and kind of learn about it, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, maybe I should dial in my food choices. And I haven't quite, like, I'm not a physician, so I don't have the training in these things, but I haven't quite connected all the dots between consistent blood sugar and what result that produces, both from a weight and metabolic perspective. And so I've got to kind of close the loop in my own sort of evaluation and logic to understand it before I spend, because it is pretty expensive. I mean, it's like $300 or something for the device, like, per month.
Right.
If it's not, see, this is the thing, if it's covered by insurance for reasons of diabetes, it's, it's much lower cost because your insurance is picking it up. But when you want to do it just sort of proactively, stuff's expensive. So,
yeah.
Anyway, good stuff. Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that, but it's good. On to the topic of the day.
Yeah. Basically, is this the greatest time to be a fan, Danny?
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already talked about the NHL, and we can definitely talk more about it.
I was going to say, are you talking about for a fan of the NHL or a fan of sports in general, or a fan of?
So we'll talk about, triathlon, my first love, right?
Yeah.
You have two competing series right now. You have the T100 series, and for anybody who doesn't know, it's just a 100K triathlon. So each event, there's I think 8 events, and you can drop, 2 of your worst ones or whatever.
Yeah.
You have 100K distance to work with. So the organizers can make it a 5K swim.
Okay.
And then like 80K bike and 15K run.
Nice.
They can play with that distance. So it's kind of cool. It's not like an Olympic distance or 70.3 where the distances are fixed.
Static. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, with the 70.3, you're going with, 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike and a half marathon, and then double all that for an Ironman.
Yeah.
And then the other one that's competing with the T100 is Ironman's Pro Series.
Okay.
So they're doing their series, and it's point ranked, and there's a lot of specifics and all of that stuff, but depending on who shows up and all that other, who shows up, the depth of the field, they have all these ranking things to try to because you can't race every weekend.
Right.
Like triathlon, you cannot race
you
every
just can't
weekend.
recover. Yeah.
But, Ironmans are weighted more than 70.3s. You have to do two Ironmans of their Pro Series.
Okay.
And then you get like 4 70.3s to rank your points in.
Okay.
And so, and the T100 is just, you have to go to the races and the rank there. So it's kind of like this competing triathlon thing, and they're throwing prize money at these athletes. And it's great to see that, the sport is growing at the professional level where now a triathlete has multiple options to go either to this T100 series,
and as a pro, make money at it.
Yeah, and make money at it.
Right.
So, so I think, that's just unheard of as far as just 10 years ago, like you would basically have pro triathletes who are, supplementing their income with coaching and living out of a van down by the river,
and I think that's one of the things that you ask is the greatest time. I think the T100 is a really interesting concept. It's been around a couple years now, right? I think this is probably the third year, maybe third or fourth year.
This is the third
season.
Yeah, third season major.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because it's like because it's 100K. It's like the right amount. It's the right amount of distance and time that people can consume it and not have to sit there for 12 hours of a day to try to take it all in and understand what's happened. It kind of fits in that sort of 2 to 3 hour block of a traditional sporting event.
Yep.
So it's a lot easier to televise. And I've watched a few of them. I don't watch it as much as you do, but I've watched a few of them, and the reporting and sort of they actually have some good continuity of the reporting and sort of building the narrative on the different athletes. And because there's a lot of, I don't want to call it dead time, but the strategy of the race sort of unfolds over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Right. Versus like a hockey game where the momentum of the game could flip like on every possession it could flip.
Yep.
So just the pace is a little different, but I think the commentary is much better than it was originally in the first year. And I think it's becoming more consumable, which is encouraging because once you start getting TV money into it,
Yeah.
now you're starting to talk about real money,
Yeah.
or TV or broadcasting, I should say, because it's mostly going to be streamed online. And I think, is it HBO Max that used to cover the T100?
Yeah. I don't know who
does it now, but that's who it was on. It was on there the last time. But in any case, the T100 I think is the right format. I really like what they're doing there, and the fact that each event has flexibility. Each event has flexibility over how they want to structure the run, the swim bike run.
Yeah.
In terms of the distance. So it's not quite like a Ironman where it's much more, as you said, the static distances. So
yeah. So sometimes some courses will be set up for bike runners, and some will be set up for like swim bikers.
Right.
And it's kind of nice to have, with triathlon, the fact that like, it's used with triathlon. It's so rigid where, this Olympic distance has to be this long and this, this distance. And, just to come in with a sport that's like, okay, we're going to do triathlon, but all the disciplines don't have to be a set amount. They all have to add up to 100K.
Right.
And so they can just go from there, which is awesome. So speaking of broadcasters, it looks like it's going to be on Outside TV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's some other spots to look. A lot of times I just look on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And Facebook, sometimes they Facebook Live it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's the, again, I think once you start getting into the broadcast side of it where it's consumable, then it gets more viewership, more ad dollars, and all of a sudden it has a viable business model. And so, I mean, from that perspective, it absolutely is. And when there's more money, there's more pros, right? So you get more people trying to become a pro, and it just sort of, as we like to say, it sort of trickles down into the amateur level because now there sort of has to be a developmental process that has to take place.
Yep.
And so you start to see more money become available for developing younger athletes. And I mean, we're even seeing it with things like some of the youth programs that we're seeing here locally, right?
Yep.
So I mean, it's great. It's really awesome to see. So from that perspective, yeah, absolutely. I'd go with it's the greatest time to be a fan for sure.
Yeah. So if you're interested, the Oceanside Ironman 70.3 is going on this weekend. Yeah. And so is Singapore T100 series.
Okay.
So they're going on this weekend. Definitely check them out if you're tri-curious. Definitely check them out. I'll be watching them for sure.
We got a rainy weekend in the forecast and some long bike rides. So
yeah, I'll be on the trainer just watching these guys swim, bike, run for sure. Yeah. So
good
and
stuff.
Then so the other thing I got going on, this weekend is our Tour de Flanders. Yeah, is going on leading up to the Holy Week of of the Paris-Roubaix. So.
I'm really excited for Paris-Roubaix.
And then this weekend, which, you're going to have Vanderpool versus Tade. Again.
It's turning in. See, the interesting part about that is Vanderpool is, I got a friend that is all about Vanderpool. GOAT. He's the GOAT, everything, it's like.
It's not me, guys. It's not me.
And I agree. I think on a one-day race that's not a mountain course, I agree. I think he's better than Tade. Just one-on-one. But you put any kind of mountains involved in that or lessen the technical nature.
Put the Koppenberg in there?
Yeah. I mean, Tade's awesome, but I'm just telling you, not many people can hang with the Vanderpool breakaway and sprint. Yeah. I mean, there just aren't many people that can do that.
Well, I was thinking about it too. Is like we have this rivalry now. Yeah. With the two of them, with Tade. Vanderpool.
Who's not getting talked about in that? Wout van Aert.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's having a bad year. It's bad season, bad winter,
bad multiple years coming. I mean, I know he got injured too, but like that didn't help. But so not to take away, but like, how awesome would it be if he was like back where I think he was getting hyped up a lot as this sort of competing sprinter, and he really never came out. And I'm like, no, he's just a great all around rider.
Yeah.
I mean, and so anyway, but no, you're right. It's a nice rivalry that's shaping up between Tade and Vanderpool.
Yeah.
And at least from a classics perspective. I mean, you think about it, who else is competing with those two at the classics? Like legitimately competing with them. I mean, I guess you could say Pidcock because he did try to compete with Tade, but I mean, when Tade can totally wipe out on his bike and catch him and just put him to shame, like, how real was it?
It's like, hard. It's hard to say because these guys are I think with if you want to watch some team tactics play out, definitely watch this Tour de Flanders because it's going to have to be team tactics. It just can't be these two guys going head to head because it's just not. It's going to be whose team works the best to keep these guys safe.
You know what would be really so kind of going back to the whole, is this the greatest time to be a fan? The only thing I could think would make it better right now in terms of watching pro cycling is if these guys were racing more cobbles and true gravel than road.
Oh, you mean, yeah, but then that's not road racing.
I didn't say it had to be road racing. I'm just saying, and that's why I like the classics so much, because it introduces the requirement of technical skill and the ability to handle the punishment that gravel and those cobbles bring on.
Yeah.
And to me, that's how you get to the strongest rider. Now, I think on traditional road,
I think in a one-day classic, that's probably true.
Yeah. I think on the road side, when it's pure road and the fact, like you can think about like traditional, like Tour de France kind of stuff, I think I really like the fact that the team tactics are so important in that. And to me, that's where, again, Tade, 2 or 3 years ago, you would say, well, Tade has to win this thing on his own because he didn't have a strong enough team around him, and he did, which is what's crazy. Now he's got such a strong team around him. It's like, I don't know if another team can take those guys out at this point.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that. I mean, we'll have to do a little Tour de France preview. Even though I know we try to stick to the local stuff, but you can't enjoy local riding and not peek at some of this stuff that's going on on the other side of the pond here.
Especially when like I said, like I do truly believe that this is some of the greatest time to be alive. Like you're not going to see, rivalries like this in the future.
You want me to wreck it for you?
What?
How clean is the sport?
Whatever, We're not going to get there. The thing is if you don't, the storyline is there, right? It's like how clean is football, right?
The storylines, you said it. The storyline is there.
The storyline's
they got us right where they want us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
you guys believe the storyline? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
No, I don't believe the clean.
You know what else was a good storyline? Was Lance Armstrong winning 7 TDS.
He never tested positive.
I didn't say there's any, look, I don't care that he did. 95% of the other people would have tested positive too. But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is I had to poke a little bit at that because we've done that episode, and it does make you wonder. But the fact is
then I went on a side tangent here, folks. I was going, I don't know what happened on my YouTube feed, but it just showed how you could fool the biological passport. And so now I'm just like, nothing's real anymore. We're living in a simulation. It's all BS. Like,
it might be. Yeah.
But yeah, so I won't go down that. I won't speak my opinion on that. I really don't think the sport is clean, but again, as long as they're testing within the parameters and they're falling within the lines, then I don't have anything to say about it.
Here's the thing. At the end of the day, it makes for some very good watching.
Yes.
And again, we might find out 3 or 4 or 5, 10 years from now that this generation wasn't clean either. It doesn't really matter. Right now, it's a lot of fun to watch. And it's good to see the sport have this type of competition going on.
Well, and that's my thing too, is like, these are all entertainment properties.
Yeah.
Right. This is all entertainment. This is, these guys are getting their paycheck. This is what they chose to do with their lives.
That's
like,
right.
You might as well just kind of enjoy the ride. And like, if you're stuck inside riding the trainer on a Sunday afternoon, you might as well watch these races and, get inspired.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's a blast to watch, and the Tour de Flanders. It's going to be fun. I'm really excited for Paris-Roubaix though.
Oh, dude, everybody is.
That's all. I can't wait for
everybody
it.
Loves it.
Can't wait for it.
I like Tour of Flanders is good. Definitely, it just kind of shows you like who's ready in the season. Like just kind of that. It's that pre-race before the.
I haven't seen. Was it this race last year? Was they had bad weather? Or was
and they had to walk up. Up one of the climbs. It was all wet and nasty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Only like 5 of them got away.
That's right.
Before the rest, there was just that big line of people just walking. I was like, "What is this, Unbound?"
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, well, it's going to be fun to watch. And that's real. I mean, then you got the Giro coming up, right? Next few weeks later, and
the season's just kicking off. Like I said, like
it's all coming together.
Yeah, we got Flint Hills Gravel here locally. We have NHL playoffs coming up.
So if you've seen us riding around in the Kansas City area, the latest thing that we've got going now is we both have speakers on our bikes, which we never trained with speakers.
Yeah, we never trained with music
since the motivation episode. It's like, you know what, let's just clear this whole motivation thing out. Let's just throw some speakers on the bikes. And now it's like I can't ride without it. I'm like, so we're gonna have NHL games going on in the background for sure. I can already tell.
Yeah, going.
Yeah, playoffs get going. We're gonna be out there and we can have an NHL game in the backdrop.
Yeah,
it's good stuff. So,
but yeah, it's good. But no, you have, like I said, you have the local stuff. Then you have Sea Otters kicking off 2 weeks. Yeah. Or not this weekend, but next weekend. You have the spring classic season kicking off. You have T100 kicking off. You have the Ironman Pro Series kicking off. Like, it's just, like I said, if you're into cycling and triathlon, I mean, heck, I think Boston's coming up too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you're one of those crazy runner kids.
Nah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, that's why I said at the top, I love spring. Like, I understand everybody's passion for football and college football kicking off and all that. But the thing is when spring's here, it's like, the weather starts to warm up. Everything is like the darkness of winter starts to lift. And it's just so nice. So good stuff.
Yeah. All right, we got rapid fire.
We're going to do some rapid fire. So rapid fire on this episode is a little tough because, we kind of had a mishmash of some topics here. But, kind of in the vein of, is this the best time for to be a fan? I think it's kind of important about the broadcast. Like, I kind of talked about if we can figure out how to broadcast this stuff and get into the revenue streams associated with that, then all of a sudden, like, it's not just race entries and sponsorships. It's also the viewership, which that's where the real money's at.
Right.
You take any of the major sports, the real money's in the TV deal. It's just the way it is. So one of the questions that came up on here is, would making endurance sports more like traditional broadcasts would attract more fans, or would it alienate the core audience?
I think it would attract more fans. I think so. One of the things that I've noticed on, oh man, was it a cycling race or a triathlon? I think it was a triathlon. They were talking about people's heart rates, and they had the heart rate data. Yeah. And it's this, like, along with their power data. Yeah. And it's like, so-and-so's heart rate's like 140 beats, and so-and-so heart rate is like 160 beats, and somebody's working harder than the other. And it's like, that's not true.
That's not true. Yeah.
And so, like, the general audience likes to see the numbers, but I think the thing is you can't just throw numbers up there and
without context.
Yeah, without context, because I'm usually 20 beats lower than Danny at all times.
Pretty much.
But our power is pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So it's like, it can't be, you can compare our heart rates, right? But it's not the same.
Right.
Our zones are set up differently. So I think just throwing numbers at the general audience, they're just like, I don't understand what 120 beats a minute or 140. Is that hard? Is that supposed to be hard? I know mine on the couch is 60, but like, well, like, how hard is it?
And that's the thing. Like, the average person, isn't the average sports fan that's not into these types of sports but might catch an interest in watching it on TV would have no concept for the differences in heart rate and all that. Now, those of us that train it would pick it up right away, you know. So that kind of goes into the other question on here is like, if we had live in-race commentary with power, heart rate, data, attack analysis, would it make endurance sports more exciting, or is the mystery part of the thrill? And you watch stuff like this.
Well, I mean, you know, you think about like attack data and all that stuff. Like, really, when you see, like, you know, go to like a Tour de France, when you see somebody attacking in the mountains, I don't need to know the data, like to see that they're attacking.
It's
right?
fun to see it.
It's fun to see. It's nice to know it, I guess, after the fact. Like, you're just like, oh my gosh, that guy did like 700 watts for 2 minutes. Like, that's insane. Yeah. But when you're seeing it, and I think this is the other part too, is that, you know, those mountain stages, it's real evident to see the attack. Right. But when you're on like a long, you know, 10-hour Ironman or Unbound event, those attacks, they happen a lot slower.
They do.
And it's just like, well, maybe somebody just kind of goes off the front, and then, you know, that's not really attack. They were just kind of just pedaling hard. And the next thing you know, they're like, they're riding to the end there.
Do you remember a few years ago they televised, or not televised, but they broadcast, live stream the, was it Unbound? Maybe Unbound. No, I know they did. I know they did Big Sugar. I forget the group that did it, but it was live streamed, and I think they had some technical issues. They didn't do it the next year. But I thought about that a little bit. I'm like, take an Unbound 200. It's a 10-hour event for the pros, right? Or 8-hour event for the pros. Like, is that really, like, is that good? Like, it's hard to consume. Like, the thing is, like, with pro cycling, some of those broadcasts are 5 hours long. For Tour de
like
France.
Milan, San Remo.
Yeah, they're Milan.
You only turn in for the last 15 minutes, but it's like a 6-hour day for them. Right,
exactly. And that's the thing. So it's like, and I know like NBC Sports did, well, they used to, I don't, they still do or not, but for like Tour de France, they would sort of catch you in like after the first like 60 kilometers or so. So you'd kind of like trim off like a couple hours worth of broadcast. But at the same time, like, it's sure that's not where the race is going to be won or lost necessarily, but like some of those stages you could get a breakaway in that. And then it's like, is the breakaway going to hold on? And so the same thing with like something like Unbound, where if they're broadcasting that, it's expected to be an 8 to 10 hour event. Like, it's just hard to keep an audience captive for that, you know? And I think that's where it kind of runs into
especially for an Unbound. I think the biggest problem with like Unbound or Ironman or something like that is the course doesn't dictate the moves. Right. It's the athletes. Right. So a smart athlete is going to slowly whittle down his competition. He's not going to like put in this huge effort and then he's solo at like 100 miles left to go.
Yeah,
like,
not usually.
That's not how that's going to work. Like it's just this slow attrition, and you know, only the diehard fans are going to be able to see that type of thing, but it doesn't play well for sports. So I don't think that you're ever going to get the full, you know, tape to tape coverage of Unbound like you would or even an Ironman too, because I think it's just too long of an event, and the stuff plays out too slowly.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's
but it's perfect for highlight reels.
Oh yeah. Oh no doubt
because
about
there's there's so much stuff that happens. Like I would like to I would like them to like stream it the whole thing, but like, you know, but as far as like a major broadcast picking it up, I would like to do that. Like they would just do the little highlight reel type stuff.
Yeah. I don't know how. I think for a major broadcast, like if it'd be hard for like a ESPN, for example, like the Ocho. It'd be hard for it'd be hard for them to do a broadcast. Like they would have to do, like you said, like piece together a highlight reel and make it like an hour-long episode, and like it wouldn't be live, you know, because like it'd just be too hard to captivate anybody to watch it. So, and that kind of goes to the next and probably the last question here around this is like, is the reason that endurance sports, they aren't quite, you know, they're not widely followed. I mean, they're just not by the general population. Is that because they're, you know, sort of fundamental at that fundamental level? It's more about like the participant's experience versus the spectator. So like
Yep.
and I think that's a big part of like, you don't have to go very far to get proof of this either. You go talk to your non-endurance sports friends about how awesome it was to go ride for 12 hours through the Flint Hills.
Yeah.
Like they don't get
Watch their eyes glaze over.
Exactly. I mean, how many Ironman triathletes have gone to tell their buddies about completing an Ironman that don't do an Ironman? Like,
Right.
I don't really care, man. Congratulations. You
Good
could have
job.
just stopped with you did it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to tell me everything else.
So, you know, you
Yeah.
take a sport like, let's say football or, you know, soccer or something
Yeah.
like that. Like it's basically a spectator sport.
Right.
So like watching it is the thing.
Right.
It happens, you know, everybody talks about it, you know,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. Whereas like, you know, gravel and Ironman and, you know, marathon running and all this kind of crazy stuff that we do is all a like participant sport.
Right.
So like only the people like who participate in it can actually understand the sport, and
Right.
they're the ones that are the fans.
Exactly.
So like, again, when I tell my like neighbors, like they're like, "Oh, what'd you do today?" And I'm like putting the bike up.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I just went and rode for a couple hours." And they're like, "Well, how far did you get?" And I'm like 70 miles. They're like, "Good Lord, man, what are you doing?"
Like they don't even want to
like,
drive 70 miles,
Yeah.
let alone ride a bike for it. Yeah.
So
Yeah, same thing. Like, you know, we chat at work about like, what'd you do this weekend? Well, I rode for 75 miles on a training ride. Like, that's it? Like, yeah.
yeah, I ran out of road.
I think I'll go home now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's just, the thing is, it's about your sort of the active participation of it. It's hard to, and that's why I say, even as somebody who does these things, it's hard to watch. It's really hard to watch like Ironman coverage. And that's why I like the T100
Yep.
so much, because I think there's so much.
It has to be fast.
Well, but there's constantly something happening, whether it's the leaders that are, you know, have transitioned into the bike, and they're maybe, you know, 20% of the bike course, and then all of a sudden, like, there's still people coming. Like, some of the pros are still finishing. It's like they can kind of pan back to, here's a good story about somebody. Like there's a way to sort of tell the story across the entire field, and it's in a compressed time frame.
Yep.
So that it makes it a lot easier to follow. Whereas, you know, an Ironman event, just, you know, full Ironman, it's like, yeah, it's just kind of hard to watch. Like I watched them when they live stream, you know, World Championships, and
Yep.
yeah, it's pretty cool. But like, same thing, like you don't tune in until halfway through the marathon, because that's where the moves are going to happen.
Yep.
You know, and so
Unless they're leading from the very start. So
exactly.
yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, you know, 70.3 is great to watch.
Yeah.
You know, they're over within like 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that would be a good broadcasting one. But again, when you say, "Oh, I went and did 70.3," and like people are like, "Well, what is that?" And
Right.
You're like, "An Ironman." I'm like, "So you're an Ironman?" And it's like,
Yeah, they don't get-
No,
yeah, it's
that's a different
Yeah.
distance. So I think Ironman has done their disservice by making it the name of the event and
yeah.
the distance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like, you know, we all refer to it as a half Ironman, but like they don't really call it that.
Yeah.
Ironman 70.3.
Yep.
Like, thanks.
Thanks.
So
We're just half.
We're just half.
We're just not as good. So
yeah. So that's good rapid fire for the day. I mean, there's a couple of good questions there, but I think at the end of the day, I mean, coming back to the whole theme, it is a great time to be a fan of the sport.
Yeah.
And there's more accessibility to see it too, which is the other thing. Whether it be pro cycling across the pond, or, you know, gravel cycling, classics, triathlon, there's so many options now, and that can only be a good thing, you know?
Yep.
So cool.
Cool, man. Well, that's all I got.
All
so
right.
we'll talk to you guys all next week.
Next week, you got it.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.